failed badly, thank you. My apologies to those people who are online. I didn't acknowledge you, and I do at this point acknowledge people that are watching this meeting online. The Shire of Esperance acknowledges the Capricorn Wurundjeri people of the Noongar Nation and the Ngadju people who are the traditional custodians of this land and their continuing connection to land, waters and community. We pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging, and we extend that respect to other Aboriginal Australians today. Thank you. So we move into our agenda, and we have attendance of 8 councillors. Councillor Graham is on leave of absence. We then move on to apologies. I'll take it from Councillor Graham in his apology because he's on leave of absence. Applications for leave of absence. Any councillors? Councillor De Haas.
Yes, I'd like to apply for leave of absence from the 2nd to the 6th of August.
Thank you. Now, Secretary got that? Right, okay, Councillor O'Donnell.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to apply for leave from the 31st of July until the 13th of August, please.
Thank you. Is there any other councillors seeking leave of absence? If not, someone prepared to move that we grant leave of absence? Moved by Councillor Horan, seconded by Councillor O'Born. It's moved and seconded. Doesn't need any debate, I don't believe. I'll put the vote those in favour. Against that is carried, 8 votes to nil.
Thank you.
We go to announcements for the persons presiding without discussion. Councillors, I'd just like to take this opportunity to express a very, very sincere thank you to our staff for Winter Wonderland. I think it was just an amazing event, and I never saw it could be as good as what it was. It was just brilliant in my mind, and I have had so many people come forward and acknowledge that fact and say what a great event it was. And I just pay my greatest respects to Shane Tobin and his team for initiating it, bringing the idea to us, and all of the staff of the Shire of Esperance who worked on the day. And there was a huge amount of them there. Everyone had on their pink vest, showing that they were a Shire employee, and all making every action within the day's activities work perfectly. So my sincere compliment to our staff for just a fantastic event, and it's great to note that I think it's booked in for the 13th of July 2024, so that'll be great. Moving on in the agenda, we go to item 6 of the agenda, declarations of members' interests. Are there any members declaring financial interests? Councillor O'Born.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I am declaring a financial interest in item 17.1 as I hold a strata title property.
Thank you. Any further declarations of financial interests? Move on then to proximity interests. Any councillors declaring proximity interests? No. Declarations of impartiality interests. Any councillors declaring? Councillor Chambers.
I'd like to declare an impartiality interest on item 12.1.1, the proposed road reserve, as I'm a part owner of Wi-Fi WA and we lease a portion of the tower that is on that block of land.
Thank you. Is there any further declarations of impartiality? No? Okay. Then we move on to public question time. Just an opportunity for members of the public to ask any question on any matter. Mrs. McDonald has indicated no, she was only a listener. Is there no other questions, no other members of the public here? Right, let's move on then. We go to public addresses and deputations, nil. Item 9 is petitions, nil. Okay. So we go then to item 10, which is the confirmation of the minutes of our ordinary council meeting on the 27th of June. Is someone prepared to move the confirmation of those minutes? Councillor Oborne.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the minutes of the ordinary council meeting of the 27th of June 2023 be confirmed as a true and correct record.
Thank you. Is there a seconder to the motion? Seconded by Councillor De Haas. Do you wish to speak to the motion, Councillor? Okay, does the seconder wish to speak in favour? Is there a speaker against the motion? If there's no speaker against or no amendment, I put it to the vote. Those in favour, please show. That is carried. 8 votes to nil. Thank you. We then move on to delegates' reports without discussion. The first one is Councillor Oborne. Do you have anything to add, Councillor Oborne?
Oh, I would like to just say something about the French exchange. You'll see there in the middle of that photo the two young people, Kim in the blue shirt and the gentleman in the pink shirt. I just couldn't have been more proud of those young people because they're young, they're in a foreign country with a room full of people that they only knew those people, they didn't know anyone else in the room, and they had to do a speech, public speaking, and both of them were just brilliant. They were well prepared, they thought about what they wanted to share with us to educate us about Ilda Ray, help us feel connected, then a bit about their experience here, and they conducted themselves in a manner that, belied their age. I was just really proud of them, and I think this is a valuable program, and I did the math, and it's a 235-year history we have with the French Connection. And I think, that's important for us to continue to remember and celebrate.
Thank you. Let's move on then to Councillor Flanagan. Anything to add, Councillor?
No, as listed.
Thank you. We go to Councillor O'Donnell.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd just like to say how much I think everybody enjoyed the Bush Tucker experience on that day, so thank you. As tabled.
Thank you. Councillor Graham's not here. Councillor De Haas, do you have anything to?
Nothing to add, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Horam.
Nothing to add, thank you.
Councillor McMullen.
As tabled, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Chambers.
As tabled, thank you, Chair.
Thank you. My list is as tabled, but I do have something to add to it. I received in my parcel of goodies from the French students a letter from the Mayor of St Martin. Dear President, this year we celebrate the 35th anniversary of the twinning, and I am really very pleased two Australian families of Esperance are welcoming Kim and Greg, two students from our island. I remember very well your visit with other members of Twin Towns Committee in 2008. It was for the 20th anniversary of the twinning. I am still the Mayor of St Martin, de Ray, my natal town, and I have been President of the Ilda Ray Esperance Association for 10 years. In the future, I wish the exchange will continue and will be successful as in the past. Thank you and all the representatives of the Shire of Esperance for that you have done in the past and continue to do for our twinning. Best wishes, Latrice Delachette, I think it is. So our it's good to know COVID's finished and our exchange program with the Ilda Ray is strong. Thank you. Thank you to all councillors who attended the various functions that you've listed, and thank you for representing the council where you have gone in regards to those committees, etc. you've worked with. We now move into the matters requiring a determination of council, which is on page 11 of your agenda, and the first item is item 12.1.1. which is the proposed road dedication and reserve 47992. Do you have any questions to Mr. Grieve on this one? Any questions? You understand what it's about? Recommendations on page 13, councillors. If you wish to move the motion, I refer you to page 12. Councillor Horan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to move the officer's recommendation. The Council 1 requests the Minister of Lands to dedicate the indicated portion of Reserve 47992, being lot 1020 on Plan 29411 as a road, and 2, advise the Minister of Lands that in accordance with section 56 in brackets 4 of the Land Administration Act 1997, that as the applicant in this matter, the Department of Planning, Lands and Heritage is liable to indemnify the Minister against any claim for compensation in an amount equal to the amount of all costs and expenses reasonably incurred by the Minister in considering and granting the request. Thank you.
Thank you. It's moved by Councillor Horan. Is someone prepared to second the motion? Seconded by Councillor Flanagan. Councillor Horan, you can speak to this motion if you so wish.
I think it's pretty well self-explanatory. It's makes good sense that having to cut a road through the bush to use what's there already. So, yeah, I think it's a good move. Thank you.
Thank you. Is the Speaker against the motion? Does the seconder wish to speak in favour?
I've nothing further to add, Mr. President.
Thank you. Is the Speaker against or an amendment? No speakers against, no amendment. I put to the vote. Those in favour, please show. That is carried. 8 votes to 0. We move on to item 12.1.2, waiving of venue hire fees, Esperance Netball Association. Are there any questions you might have to Mr. Grieve on this item? No questions? And I'd ask that is someone prepared to move the recommendation which is listed on page 16 of your agenda? Councillor Oborne.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that council waive venue hire fees for the Esperance Indoor Sports Stadium, Graham Mackenzie Stadium and Noel White Centre for the Esperance Netball Association, excluding cleaning costs for the Regional Netball Carnival being held on the 28th to the 30th of July 2023.
It's been moved by Councillor Oborne. Is there a seconder to the motion? Seconder, Councillor O'Donnell. Councillor Oborne, you can speak to your motion.
Oh, thank you, Mr. President. I feel like this one's quite self-explanatory, along with, you know, what I was saying about the French young people coming over here and gaining these experiences. Things like this are amazing opportunities for young people to gain new experiences. It's obviously got health benefits for everybody involved, but for our town more broadly, there's both economic and tourism flow-on effects for us. So I see this as being a small way for us to help the Esperance Netball Association.
Thank you. Is the Speaker against the motion? The seconder wish to speak to the motion in favour?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to say that congratulations to the Esperance Netball Association for obtaining this carnival. It's been 20 years, I believe, or more, since the last carnival. I think it's going to be great for the Esperance region, also showcasing our indoor stadium.
Yeah.
So, yes, I'd like everybody to vote in favour of this, please.
Thank you. Is there a speaker against or an amendment? No speakers against, no amendment. I'll put it to vote. Councillors, this requires an absolute majority. Those in favour, please show. Against, that is carried 8 votes to 0. Thank you, councillors. Okay, so then we move on to the next item, which is in the agenda of the asset management, and it is item 12.3.1, lease of the airport car hire desk number 3. and that is on page 21 of your agenda, and the recommendations on page 23. Any questions you might have on this to Mrs. Baxter?
Through the chair, just a question, just in the officer's recommendation on line 3 for Mrs. Baxter, just the lease rental being, or it is 1,700, shouldn't they have a per annum in there, including GST? Or is that on my, I know it says further down, but it just seems not clear enough to me. It's on the other one as well, of course.
Yeah, we can include that.
Yeah, it just seems like, yeah, per annum when I look at it, yeah.
If you want to include that, if somebody wants to use it.
Okay, so it's been explained how we deal with it. Any other questions to Mrs. Baxter on this item? So there's, if there's no more questions, is someone prepared to move the recommendation, which is on page 23, as I said? And there was a suggestion that it be, have the word included. Somebody prepared to move? Councillor Flanagan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to move the recommendation with a slight amendment, as has been outlined. So I would move the officer's recommendation as amended, that council, should I read the entire recommendation?
No.
Just 1 through to 9, but with the amendment under point 3, that lease rental being $1,718.79 per annum, including GST, and that council consider this value to be a true indication of the current rental rate subject to annual CPI increases.
Thank you. It's moved by Councillor Flanagan. Is it seconded? Seconded by Councillor Horan. Councillor Flanagan, you wish to speak to your motion?
I don't think there's any need for me to speak to this motion. It's self-explanatory. It's been fully outlined in the officer's report. It's a pretty straightforward administrative process. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a speaker against the motion? No speakers against. Or does the seconder wish to speak?
No.
Okay, no, that's fine.
No, sorry.
Okay. So is there a speaker against it or a amendment? No speakers against, no amendment. I'll put to the vote. Those in favour? Against, that's carried 8 votes to 0. We go on to page 25 is the item at 12.3.2, airport car hire desk, which is for desk 2. Are there any questions you might have to Mrs. Baxter on this one? Councillor?
Yeah, again, just the same thing on line 3, if we could insert per annum in there, please.
Okay, so is, if there's no more questions, just a suggestion then. So are you prepared to move the recommendation with that word added into it, Councillor Horan?
Yes, I am. So, the officer's recommendation that council accept item 1 through to 5, please. With the amendment on item 3, with the lease rental being $1,682.22, including per annum, including GST, and council consider this value to be the true indication of the current market rental rate subject to annual CPI increases.
Thank you. So it's been moved by Councillor Horan as a second to the motion, seconded Councillor Flanagan. Councillor Horan, did you wish to speak to it? Okay, did you wish to speak to it? You moved it.
Yeah, no, nothing. Thank you.
Thank you. So is there a speaker against? Councillor Flanagan, did you wish to speak as a seconder? Speak in favour?
Not in specific to the actual lease, but it's good to see that there's a bit of competition in the rental car market. with budget returning, so I think that can only be a good thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a speaker against the motion or an amendment? No one speaking against it or amending it. I put to the vote those in favour. That is carried. 8 votes to nil. So we move on then, councillors, to item 12.3.3, change of rate zone on lot 15 Stern Road. Are there any questions you might have to Mr. Grieve on this item? No questions? Got all your answers last Tuesday, so the recommendation is on page 31. Someone prepared to move the recommendation? Councillor De Haas?
Yes, I'd like to move the officer's recommendation that council request the Minister for Local Government to change the rate zone for the land formerly described as Lot 7, 75 Stern Road, monging up from GRV to UV, rural, based on current usage of the property, its size and consistency with neighbouring properties.
Thank you. It's moved by Councillor De Haas. Is there a seconder to the motion? It's seconded by Councillor O'Donnell. Councillor De Haas, would you wish to speak to this motion?
Just to say that I think this makes sense. It's a combination of properties and it wouldn't make sense to have two different rates on one property.
Thank you. Is there a speaker against the motion? Councillor O'Donnell, do you wish to speak in favour of the motion as being the seconder?
Thank you, Mr. President. And as I'll just add to that, as we heard last week, it was at the owner's request, so there should be no pushback from the owners on this property.
Thank you. Is there a speaker against the motion or an amendment? I put to the vote those in favour. Against, that is carried 8 votes to nil. We move on then to item 12.3.4, which relates to rates concessions for 2023-24, and that is on get where I am now.
32.
Page 32. My apologies, councillors. And if you have any questions to Mrs. Baxter, please put them now. No questions? Is someone prepared to move the motion, which is on page 33 of your agenda, councillors? Moved by Councillor Oborne. Thank you, Councillor Oborne.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the officer's recommendation that council grant a concession of $678 for GRV and $687.50 UV to the properties as attached to be included within their 2023-24 rates notice.
Thank you. It's moved by Councillor Oborne. Is there a seconder to the motion? Councillor O'Donnell. Councillor Oborne, you can speak to your motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just to say that staff have brought this to our attention, out of a sense of fairness and equity to the property owners, because they don't receive services from us the way other properties do, and it's entirely consistent with previous decisions we've made around this recently.
Thank you. Is there a speaker against the motion? Councillor O'Donnell, do you wish to speak in favour?
No, thank you, Mr. President. I think Councillor Oborne has said what I was going to say, so thank you very much for that.
Thank you. Is there a speaker against or amendment? Councillors, this requires an absolute majority. I put to the vote those in favour, please show. Against, that is carried at 8 votes to nil. We move on to financial services, which is item 12.3.5, and so it's the financial services report for July 2023. Are there any questions you might have about the financial services report to Mrs. Baxter? No questions? Okay, well then, I'll take it someone's prepared to move the officer's recommendation to adopt the report. Moved by councillor De Haas.
Yes, I'd like to move the officer's recommendation that council receive the attached report entitled Monthly Financial Services Report for the month of June 2023.
Thank you, councillor De Haas. Is there a seconder to the motion? Seconded by councillor McMullen. Councillor De Haas, would you like to speak to your motion?
Yes, I certainly would. This has become a little bit of a tradition for me to move this. I'm getting used to all these lovely numbers, but I would like to say thank you to Sophie for answering a couple of questions that I had while I was away, because it did clear it up and save a bit more debate tonight. As always, it's a really great report, and it's really good to be able to look at it, to read it, and to get your head around everything that we're doing within council. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a speaker against? The seconder wish to speak in favour of the motion? Councillor McMullen?
Nothing further to add, thank you.
Okay. Councillors, I just used my opportunity here to speak in favour of the motion. For any councillors that are concerned about the financials and feel that you perhaps don't fully understand, page 2 of the report is the key one, where the statement's made that council is solvent and I do not consider there are any matters of liquidity that I would bring to council's attention. It goes on and gives the details of the amounts that are sitting in those various accounts, and that is the key statement that's there for us councillors. Our senior staff person is making a clear statement and signing off, and if we've got any doubts, the only time we worry is when they say there are significant matters that have to be dealt with. That's the only issue you need to worry about. Is there a speaker against the motion? Speaker in favour of the motion? Put to the vote those in favour. Against, that is carried. Thank you. Let's move on then to the next item is on page, my apologies, that next item is 12.3.6, which is the workplace drug and alcohol use policy, and this is on page 91 of your agendas. Now, are there any questions you might have on this item? Page 91, and the officer is Mrs. Baxter. No, it's not. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Okay. Any questions to Mrs. Baxter on this workplace drug and alcohol use policy? It's a revised policy. No questions? Okay, someone prepared to move the recommendation? Councillor Oborne.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the officer's recommendation that council adopt policy HR014, workplace drug and alcohol use.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Oborne. Somebody second the motion. Seconded by Councillor Flanagan. Councillor Oborne, you can speak to the motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. Obviously, I have a personal interest in documents such as this, and I found it to be a really balanced document. Obviously, providing a safe workplace is paramount for all employers, and this updated policy addresses the current environment that we're living and working in. But I also think that it balances the welfare of staff in it, and so I just want to thank the staff for their work on this and commend it to you.
Thank you. Is there a speaker against the motion? Does the seconder wish to speak in favour of the motion?
Nothing further to add, Mr. President.
Okay. Is there a speaker against the motion? No amendments? Put it to the vote, those in favour? Against, that is carried. 8 votes to nil. We go then to executive services. The agenda briefing meeting date for September 2023 is item 12.4.1, and that is on page 106 of your agenda, councillors. Do you have any questions for the CEO on this item? No, no questions? Any questions to Miss Sophie Hawke? No, no questions, right. Okay, is someone prepared to move the motion on this? It is listed on page 107. Councillor O'Donnell?
Thank you, Mr President. I'd like to move the officer's recommendation that Council 1 amend the September agenda briefing date to Thursday, 21st of September 2023, commencing at 1 p.m, and 2, request the CEO to advertise a change of meeting details.
Thank you. It's moved by Councillor O'Donnell. Is there seconded to the motion? Seconded by Councillor Horan. Councillor O'Donnell, you wish to speak to this?
Thank you, Mr President. Only to say that we need to move the date due to everyone except 3 councillors will be in Esperance holding the fort, so we just need to move it for that reason.
Thank you. Is there a speaker against the motion? Seconder wish to speak?
Yeah, I think it's probably a pretty good idea. I'd probably be here on my own, and not going. Or 2 others, I think he said.
Okay. Is there a speaker against the motion? I put the motion to vote. Those in favour, please show. Against, that's carried 8 votes to nil. We go then to the information bulletin for July 2023, item 12.4.2, and that is on page 108 of your agendas, councillors. Are there any questions to Mr Burge on the information bulletin? No questions? Someone move the recommendation? Councillor Flanagan.
I move the officer's recommendation that council accepts 1, the information bulletin July 2023, 2, council priorities summary corporate performance quarterly report, 3, delegations discharge, corporate resources, from 4, status report open council resolutions July 2023.
Thank you. It's moved by Councillor Flanagan. Is there a seconder to the motion? Seconded by Councillor Oborne. Do you wish to speak to it, Councillor Flanagan?
Well, just briefly, so as important as a financial services, is it the financial services report?
No, this one's
No, I know that. Financial services report is that it outlines, that council's financial state of affairs is solvent and is being managed appropriately. This is the doing document that outlines exactly what we're actually doing with that money, and we're actually doing what the community needs and what we elected for, and I think it's a wonderful document, and people should take the time to read it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Flanagan. Is there a speaker against the motion? Seconder wish to speak to it, Councillor?
No, thank you, Mr President. That was well said. Nothing further to add.
Okay. Is there a speaker against the motion or a amendment? No one speaking against, no amendments. Put to the vote. Against, that's carried 8 votes to nil. And now we go to the item 13.1, which is minutes of committees on page 174.
Just before we go to this, I should also just point out that I've got a impartiality interest in this, as I'm named as the Deputy Urban or Bushfire Chief.
Okay, so we've got the minutes of the bushfire committee is the one and only item within this. So, are there any questions in regards to that? To probably Mr. Councillor Chambers. No questions? No, hang on, I haven't got a mover yet, have I? Councillor. So I said, was there any questions first up? Is there any questions? Did you want to ask a question? Yep, righto, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. I read through these minutes and they were very, very well done, and I feel like we are in good hands with all the delegates that are in the bushfire brigade around the Esperance region. I'd just like to thank everybody for that that's involved.
Thank you. Is there any further questions, councillors? No further questions. Are you prepared to move the adoption of those minutes? Or what is this right statement? Minutes of the Bushfire Advisory Committee meeting.
Thank you, Mr.
Council accept. You want me to read that? Yep.
Yes. I'd like to move the officer's recommendation that council accept the following unconfirmed minutes. 1 minutes Bushfire Advisory Committee meeting, the 28th of June 2023.
Thank you. It's moved by Councillor O'Donnell. Somebody second the motion? Second by Councillor Flanagan. You can speak to your motion, councillor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I did speak to the motion previously. However, I would like to say again, thank you very much for all the volunteers that are involved in the bushfire advisory committees, and I thank you very much for looking after our town and surrounds.
Thank you. Is there a speaker against the motion? Second, I wish to speak.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to reiterate or reaffirm what Councillor O'Donnell has outlined, but also to make the point that the people that take on the responsibilities that are outlined there do that. There is a massive responsibility, just in terms of what they're responsible for, the safety, and also the scale and scope of the work that these people actually undertake in often perilous sort of conditions. So that should not be underestimated. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a speaker against the motion? Speaker in favour? Councillor Chambers.
Thank you, Chair. I'd also like to reiterate Councillor O'Donnell's comments and also Councillor Flanagan's. Again, I am nominated or named in here as Deputy Urban Rural Bushfire Chief, but I would like to extend my thanks to all those that do put their hand up to carry out these roles. I'd also like to thank the Shire for their work in relation to the change to the fire reduction notice that's going out in the rates. I think it's a wonderful step forward, and hopefully it'll help clear up some of the questions that we've had in the past. So hopefully that they move forward to that. And yeah, just in general to thank the Shire for their support, for the guys that are out there doing the role. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So I'll put it to the vote then. Those in favour, please show. Against, that is carried 8 votes to 0. Item 14 of our agenda, motions of which notice has been given. Mr. CEO, no notice. Members' questions with or without notice? No members?
Just, I think we missed item 13.2.
13.2, Bushfire Advisory Committee.
Yeah, so we just need some decisions and recommendations.
Thank you. I've jumped the gun on it. My apologies. So that is dealt with on page 174.
188.
188. I've got my numbers wrong here then. My apologies, councillors. Page 188. Okay, that's the Bushfire Advisory Committee, the 28th of June 2000, yeah, that's the earlier one. And is there a recommendation on that?
So the first one was just accepting the minutes, and now we're actually gonna make some decisions on the recommendations from the Bushfire Advisory Committee in item 13.2.
Item 13.2, okay. So is there any questions to Mr Grieve on that item? No questions? So haven't got the wording for the motion. Here it is, got it now. That's on page 190, commences. The council endorse the appointment of the following positions, and then we go into 2, 3, 4 and 5. So, are there any questions you might have to Mr Grieve on these items, councillors? If not, someone prepared to move the recommendation, bottom of 190 for your agendas. Moved by Councillor O'Donnell.
Thank you, Mr President. I move that officers' recommendation that council endorse the appointments for the following positions as required by section 38 of the Bushfires Act 1954 as follows. Position, Chief Bushfire Controller Officer Phil Longmire, Deputy Chief Bushfire Control Officer Will Carmody from the west, Adrienne Perks from the east, Senior Bushfire Control Officer Tom Carmody, West Zone, Kingsley Scott, West Coast Zone, Chris Hallam, North Zone, Simon Schlink, East Zone, Adrienne Perks, East Coast Zone, Peter Rowe, Urban Rural Zone, Deputy Senior Fire Control Officers, Will Carmody, West Zone, Peter Liberta, West Coast Zone, Perrin Guest, North Zone, Linda Mickle, East Zone, Nick Rudincule,
Running Cloud. Yeah,
East
right.
Coast Zone, Ron Chambers, Urban Rural Zone, Fire Control Officers as per the attached Fire Control Officer 2023-24 list, Permit Issuing Officers as per the attached Permit Issuing Offers 2023-24 list, Chief Fire Weather Officer Phil Longmire, Fire Weather Officers Will Carmody West, Adrian Perks East, Peter Rowe Urban Rural, Ashley Pisak, to accept the draft 2023-24 fire hazard reduction notice as attached. 3, request the CEO write to the Fire and Emergency Services Commission to re-gazette the prohibited burning period for the urban rural zone to end on the 10th of March annually. 4, accept the harvest and vehicle movement ban on non-total fire ban days be implemented in the Shire of Esperance at the Fire Behaviour Index of 50 on the grassland scale. 5, support the name change of the Southern Mallee Bush Fire Brigade to the Grass Patch Bush Fire Brigade.
Thank you very much. Moved by Councillor O'Donnell, did a fantastic job of reading through all those names. Is someone prepared to second the motion? Seconded by Councillor De Haas. Councillor, did you wish to speak to your motion?
Thank you, Mr President. No, nothing further to add.
Okay. Does the second of the motion wish to add anything?
No, nothing to add, thank you.
I should ask, is there a councillor wishing to speak against the motion? I put it to the vote. Those in favour, against, that is carried. Votes to nil. Now, I jump the gun. We go to item 14, notice, motions of which notice has been given, nil. 15 is members' questions with or without notice. Any members' questions? Councillor O'Brien.
Thank you. My question is for the CEO, and you're welcome to take it on notice if you don't happen to know this off the top of your head. What, if any, levers do we have to influence the car parking situation at the Esperance Boulevard? What I mean by that is, you know, the paving's uneven, there's cracks in the curbs, there are massive holes in the bitumen. It's dangerous to the people who live in Esperance. You know, elderly people have fallen there frequently. You know, I almost lost my car trying to drive through there the other day getting a coffee. I saw a guy with a ute, you know, doing his best at $30 an hour to plug the holes. You know, a multi-million-dollar corporation paying someone $30 an hour to just chuck some black stuff in the hole. They can do better than that. And what sort of levers do we have? You know, do they have any sort of OH&S obligations that they're not meeting, that we can write a letter to the relevant department and, you know, name and shame them, try and get someone to move? Do we own that land? Do we lease it to them? Can we look at our lease arrangement with them, you know, to pressure them to do better if they want us to continue to let them operate here? Like, they might have a legal license to operate here, but they're failing with their social license. They're making money off our community, but they're not looking after our community. Every single IGA in town provides safe, secure parking. There's no holes. The, you know, lines are nice and wide enough so you don't get your car dinged. Haven't seen anyone fall over. You know, it's just not good enough, and I'm wondering if there's anything we can do.
Yeah, look, I think I might need to take it on notice to see if there is anything we do. However, I'd say that at the moment it is a private car park, so we only do have a little slither on Forest Street that is the Shires. So the rest of the car park is a private car park. So they do comply with the providing the number of car parks that was required for when they constructed the site. So from a planning and regulatory point of view, they are complying. However, you know, do they have a responsibility to their clients and you know, Oc Health and Safety, to the people that work there and the like? That's probably something we might need to look a little further on. However, in saying that, we are looking at doing some work on the car park on the corner of Brazier and Forest Street that we do need to start to talk to the Boulevard about, because it will benefit them. So we potentially do have some leverage that we could use to hopefully make some improvements or get some improvements to our community there. But yeah, I think we are quite limited, especially on a sort of planning regulatory point of view. But there might be, what I would say as well, but it would be good if you are talking to members of the public to encourage them to make complaints directly to the Boulevard, because I think more and more complaints from multiple people rather than just the Shire of Esperance would benefit as well.
Councillor Flanagan, you wish to make some comment?
Yes, and this hasn't been engineered in any way at all, I have to say, but we've had members of the public come into the local Member of Parliament's office raising the same sort of issues, probably issues around also the lack of CCTV, because there is and everyone would know anecdotally, the high prevalence of either cars being dinged with trolleys, doors, or being smashed into and people driving off. But I do acknowledge that the CEO did respond in writing to a query that I raised as well in relation to that car park. But I think that the public in general should be, as has been outlined by the CEO, getting in touch directly with the owners of that shopping centre and actually outlining their displeasure and disgust in the level of maintenance and the unsafe condition that has actually occurs there. And it's exactly what has been outlined by Councillor Oborne, is that they're busy making money from that facility, but they don't seem to be pushing any money back into the community. And that needs to be shouted from the rooftops. It's that's something that the Esperance community should be certainly communicating directly to the owners of that facility.
Okay, now they are statements that have been made. It's could be called questions, and the CEO's taking it on notice.
Yes.
So I believe that it has been dealt with, and you've explained it through two councillors. I don't think it needs any more debate than that. When there's no need for a vote on it, it is recorded appropriately, and we will, the CEO will come back with answering the questions of what pressure we can put on the company that is, not addressing their asset management in our community to the detriment of our safety of our members of the public. All happy with that, councillors? Thank you. Urgent business approved by decision. Is there any urgent business?
Well, there is one item I think that we've got that you will need to accept, which was the late behind closed matters item, 17.1. So council accept that because it wasn't in the original agenda, albeit that it did come out before the last agenda briefing.
That's right. Okay, so we deal with that in behind closed doors.
Well, if you want to just make a motion to accept, to consider the item, and
Yep.
then
I'll make a motion that we accept to consider the item behind closed doors.
Right, councillor Chambers has moved. Somebody prepared to second it? Seconded councillor O'Donnell. Does it need any debate? Councillor?
I believe so, it's only procedural.
Okay, if you're happy it goes to a vote, I put it to the vote. Those in favour, please show. Against, that is carried, 8 votes to nil. So then we go to matters behind closed doors. And so this is, someone is prepared to move that we go behind closed doors. Moved by councillor Oborne, second by councillor McMullen. Doesn't need any debate, I don't believe. Put it to the vote. Those in favour? Against? That is carried, 8 votes to nil, that we go behind closed doors. I'll probably grab that somewhere. Thank you for being with us, Mr. Vivian. councillors, now that we're out from behind closed doors, it's appropriate that I advise those people that are watching this meeting online, have joined us online, behind closed doors, we made this decision to purchase a house for staff accommodation, and that decision has been supported by all councillors. I thank everyone for being here in the meeting, and I think we dealt with all the business in a very efficient way, and I'd thank everybody for being here, and I also thank those people that are part of the live streaming, and I declare the meeting closed.